In Dragon Ball Z, audiences were first introduced to the Kaioshin, otherwise known as the Lord of Lords or Supreme Kai. The Supreme Kai Shin was the last of the Supreme Kais who were killed in battle millennia before the events of Dragon Ball took place. Along the way, we were introduced to the Old Kai, who was Shin's predecessor from generations past. And then in Dragon Ball Super, we discovered that there were 12 universes in total, each with their own Supreme Kai. However, when we take a closer look at the state of the Kaioshin, something, or more accurately someone, seems to be missing. Not only in Universe 7, but in the other universes as well. Now, as Shin explained in Dragon Ball Z, there were originally 5 Supreme Kais in Universe 7. There was a North, South, East, and West Kai, and then a Dai Kaioshin, otherwise known as the Grand Supreme Kai, above them. However, during Kid Buu and his master Bibidi's rampage, he ended up killing all but the Eastern Supreme Kai, Shin, absorbing the South Kai and then Dai Kaioshin to become Fat Buu. Buu was then placed into hibernation by Bibidi before being awakened by his son Babidi in the Buu saga. It was up to Shin as the sole surviving Kaioshin to perform his duties, creating worlds and the catalyst for life in his universe, and eventually, along with Kibito and the Z Fighters, leading the fight against Babidi and his minions. However, why was Shin still the only Supreme Kai come his introduction? Now, according to Akira Toriyama, all of the Kais are born from the fruit of the Kaiju tree on the core world. Kaioshin, however, are born of a special golden fruit. Additionally, when other living Kaioshin are killed, such as in an accident, a new fruit will immediately grow to replace them. So according to this, when the other Kais were killed by Buu, new fruit should have immediately grown to replace them. Yet, as of Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super, there are no other Kaioshin in Universe 7 other than the 2 that we already know. So why is this? Now, one reason I've heard speculated upon by fans is that the fruit may actually take a long time to mature before becoming a full-fledged Kaioshin. However, depending upon the translation and the interview, it's been thousands or even millions of years since Buu killed the Kais. So this should have been more than enough time for new fruit to grow and new Supreme Kais to replace them. Perhaps you can argue that Dai Kaioshin and the South Kai aren't technically dead, or weren't until the Buu saga on account of being absorbed, and maybe that postponed this process. However, Old Kai was still technically alive in the Z-Sword for all that time, yet was still replaced by generations of Kais leading up to Shin. So that doesn't really work either. However, then we get to another question, which is why don't the other 11 universes have the same system with their Supreme Kais? After all, if we look at the different universes, they each have one God of Destruction and one Supreme Kai. Even Universe 7's twin universe of Universe 6, which has its own Earth, Namek, and even its own Frieza doppelganger, still has a single Supreme Kai and an attendant. So why don't the other universes have 5 Supreme Kais like Universe 7? Now, it's possible that the other universes have different systems for their godly hierarchy. For instance, Universe 10 Supreme Kai Gawasu picked a North Kai, Zamasu, to be his apprentice who would eventually become a Supreme Kai. However, according to Toriyama, the Kaioshin are basically born into their positions rather than moving up in rank based on potential. Zamasu didn't even look like a regular Kai either. So it's possible that Universe 10, and by extension the other universes, use a different system. Although this seems to be contradicted in the Dragon Ball Super manga, where we learn that Future Trunks was made an apprentice Supreme Kai for Universe 7, and even gained special healing powers as a result. So if anything, this seems more like a retcon. Ultimately, I feel like this issue is something that can only really be answered out of universe, which makes sense because most of this confusion was caused by Toriyama interviews. And as we know, Toriyama has a tendency to forget information or change his mind on it depending upon the interview. So I think that that's what it comes down to here. Either Toriyama forgot about this interview and the original 5 Kai structure established in the Buu saga, or he changed his mind and retconned the whole thing. I think this seems a little more realistic than Toriyama having some kind of complex system mapped out that changes depending upon the universe, but you never know. Maybe he'll address this again in another Q&A or Super Guidebook someday. But until then, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and if you like this video, then make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and enable notifications so you can see all of my content right away when it comes out.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.